Probably you would have realized by now that I have a sore throat, so kindly bear with me if I'm coughing and coffee. And this session, people who are new to technical writing may not benefit much out of this session, but you are free to attend this in case you want to. I manage the ABJ and EMEA technical teams and have been CA for the last 12 years. So here I am going to talk about the CA's journey of DocOps. It started as a tool thing, but it resulted in a shift of culture, processes and practices. So talking about my stint at CA, it's been fun all through and because we had a lot of challenges on the way. So when we started long back, we had multiple Word documents for authoring, and we had specialized in-house tools for creating bookshelves for the PDF libraries, and any other tool each team felt comfortable with. And then we moved to authwriting. Many of my ex-CA colleagues and CA colleagues would know that we have been using authwriting for a long time. We were a big account for them. So we were quite happy with authwriting because that was the first time where we were able to bring all our content into a single centralized repository. Life was good for a couple of years, and single sourcing, content reuse, collaboration within the tech info teams, we got all these benefits when we were joining. We also did our share of innovation by writing some scripts for batch publishing and so on. But then, we forgot something. The development side at CA was slowly moving from conventional waterfall model to agile practices. Complaints from the development team started becoming more and more evident. So we had this last minute changes, and it required us a long time to publish the entire content and produce the build for development team. Understand that our content database has around 6 million objects. So we started telling them that you should be giving us 24 hours prior notice to include some high priority fixes so we can repackage the content, republish it and give it to you. Then slowly I'll give you an example so you understand what I'm talking about. CA deals with enterprise IT management solutions. CA has a large footprint of products, and we cater to a lot of business scenarios and that includes mainframe products as well. So consider a bookshelf with 50 guides, and let's say it's translated into 10 languages. So that's a large content. So to include some minor changes, it used to take us a lot of time to publish the entire content, re-index it so that it's searchable across all the guides, and then package it together to deliver it to the documentation. For some of the teams, it used to take somewhere around 10 to 12 hours to complete the entire publishing process. So it's essentially like start the publishing tonight, go back home, come back the next morning and give the build to the development team. And God forbid if the process fails or the tool is unavailable, you got more work to do. You run the risk of having dissatisfied stakeholders because you might miss out on your commitment. So this was heavy stuff, thanks to the large volume of content we had. To our defense, some of the development teams couldn't appreciate the work we were doing. While we never missed any deadline to the best of my knowledge, the entire development process was always on tenterhooks, anxiously waiting for us to deliver the content. You don't need to note down what's there in the slides, all the slides will be made available to you. So to deliver the content. And then there was another heavy stuff, some things which we were not doing right on the TI side, specifically to deal with the writing standards and change management. Let me talk about the small incident and quickly reconnect with the subject. So I have this friend whose big brother was very fussy about keeping his motorbike very clean. So one day he decided to dismantle everything, clean up each part, and when he tried reassembling, he couldn't put everything together to make the bike functional. So he had to call a mechanic, and he ended up spending a lot of money getting it assembled, which he probably could have saved by just giving the bike for a service. So now why I'm saying this story. So this is to tell you that we also have an information chunking model called information elements. I think most of the companies have some kind of an information mapping model. So, with this information mapping model, we used Authority as a tool. So when you have a tool that is enabling it and a strategy in place to chunk information into separate contents, we realized that very soon it became a challenge for us to put back or reconstruct the entire content that has been authored over a period of 10 years. On top of it, we had our own ways of embedding or reusing content. So obviously, everyone gets a little creative when it comes to content reuse. Reused topic A, B, C, and C and D. So with all this going on, very soon we realized that there are more than 2 million objects in our Authority database that we haven't touched. With this kind of an embedding in place, it became practically impossible for us to delete a topic because there were so many dependencies. So to save time, what writers were doing, they were quickly adding more and more topics and not digging into the dependencies to delete the topics that are not required. So we ended up making our stuff even more heavy, and this heavier stuff was making us less and less agile. This slide should tell the context for what it means. In the whole story, one big thing which we were missing out was active customer interaction. So it was like we create this boatloads of content, ship it, and then there is absolute silence until the next release. Once in a while, some nice support engineer would tell us, okay, there's an issue, you need to fix it, but that's again, it was in a minority. So, on the whole, it was like ship the content and then forget it. There was this constant urge of getting in front of the customers and understanding what exactly they want. So what we did is, we started Flipboard magazines. You can just go to Flipboard, that's a very popular magazine, not just for technical documentation, but we were the first ones who started using Flipboard magazines for technical documentation. So we started posting our product documentation and went posting them online. That gave us a little bit of insight on what our customers are exactly looking for, and we were getting a little more clear on what we should be doing next. So we wanted a highly collaborative system that's easy to use and manage, that kind of content management system. So we started looking for different tools that are available. This is the requirement we came up with. So the first one was very important for us. We absolutely wanted real-time customer feedback and validation for two reasons. One, to understand the cost of quality, and second, to see how we are impacting the support issues volume. So cost of quality. So we are creating a lot of content, and this content is again translated into multiple languages. Translation is an expensive business. So we wanted to be prudent in our spending, backed up by some data. Collaboration was equally important. We have some smart people in our development team, and we want, there are some cases where we require a lot of information from them. For example, your API documentation or command reference or message text. So we want more of information comes from them. So we wanted a tool or a platform that can enable them to author directly into the system. So we as writers, we act as content curators and not authors. So here Authority was creating a problem for us because Authority as a tool is good for technical writers, but if we want our development team to start using and authoring it, we'll have to train them big time, which is not possible for us. Translation again, we wanted it to be automated. I attended one of the sessions in the morning by someone in JTC where they talked about the importance of having the translated version available as soon after the English version. So that was again one of the bigger requirements. We wanted essential. So the day the English version is GA, the translated version should be available. a lot of automation, and last but not the least, we wanted lean processes and standards. So we did a lot of research and realized there is no single tool that can meet our requirements. So we decided to build our own platform, and we call it DevOps. We also refer to it as the content cousin of DevOps. This is to say we are making progress along with the DevOps side of CA to include automation and efficiency. So let's get into this DevOps model. What exactly is it? So this is the first 10,000 feet high overview. So I've done first you can see it's all on cloud. So there are no on-prem tools we have. So we built our entire platform on cloud. So in the center of it you can see DocOps Core. This is where we have Atlassian Confluence Wiki. So DocOps is not just about Wiki. Though Wiki forms an integral part of the solution, it's just the payment. So this DocOps Core is seamlessly integrated with different modules of translation, analytics, social media, and other things that you see here. This platform ensures that we have a collaborative system where we are able to quickly produce content, give it in front of the customers, and get their feedback and implement it at real time. So this is a 1,000 view. So this is how DocOps platform would look inside out. How many of you in this room are aware of Confluence or have worked with Confluence as an internal collaboration tool? Okay, fine. So I won't be going in too much detail, so people who don't know if they have any questions, you can ask me after this presentation. So consider docops.ca.com as the parent site, and we have multiple sub-sites. So we refer to each of these sub-sites as a space. A space is a self-contained unit that can be managed by a group of team members or writers. So we categorize each space into the source. We apply scroll versions as a plugin to manage different releases of the product. Then we had for translation, for automating the entire translation workflow, we work with Ringodeck and created the connector to connect directly to the Confluence. At the bottom of it, you can see single sign-on. So we used CA single sign-on to ensure that all the users, CA's users, support groups, and everything is managed at the corporate level. So this is one headache less for us. We don't have to worry about the users. People who are able to sign into the CA platform with their credentials, they can have equal access to our platform. So we implemented that. On the right side, you can see those icons. I'll show it to you in the demo, the RSS feeds. Just to talk here, we implemented a plugin called Scroll Viewport that gave us HTML level capabilities to include product-specific RSS feeds into the content. I'll give you the demo so and then we did a lot of automations. Because volunteers did automation. We automated the complete translation workflow. Earlier we required 4 people to do the different stages of translation. Now the workflow for all the CA products is managed by just one person at CA. We were able to bring down the translation costs significantly. And then we also automated switching between the versions, the analytics. We have implemented Google Analytics. So looking at how many users visit, which topics are visited, what search keywords are there, we are tracking all of that. And all of this was automated for use not only by the writers, but also the product managers. So they wanted to understand how they are using the documentation. So getting a little more detail into the DocOps here, building such a solution wasn't easy, and most notably was the performance issue. With 50 gigabytes of data in our content database, performance issues were bound to be there. So we worked very closely with our GS team to address that. And then we see this 22 plugins in action and the reporting module just sitting outside of the system. There were a lot of integrations. Like as Steve Jobs said, we created what we desperately needed. The same was the case in our site. We took around 10 months to get all of this in place. So then what Atlassian initially was unaware of how we are going to use their solution in this kind of model. when they saw what we had built, they were quite amazed. Some of our plugin vendors, they didn't seem to have, they didn't see a lot of value in our suggestions. But when they saw what was in the works, they were more than willing to understand our use case and include them in the feature list. Then we'll talk about writing standards and formatting styles. So, I'll park writing standards for some time. Let me talk about the formatting styles. So, we had more than 200 plus formatting styles that got added over a period of time, which sounded legitimate at that point of time with requests coming from writers. So we had heading level 1 to 10, list width, list alpha, number list, all of that what you can think of. So from all of that, we got down to just 9 formatting styles, just 9. So this was a big shift. During interviews, I've mostly seen that most of the writers relate to peer reviews in terms of styles and standards. They seldom talk about the usefulness of the content. Was the sentence required? Is this sentence is this paragraph making sense out here? So our rationale was quite simple. We haven't, in all these years, we haven't got a single customer who has come back to us and said that they didn't like the way the formatting was done. It was the least priority item in their list. Most of us would have visited some not so pleasant looking discussion forums. If we got our answer to the question we were looking for, did we go back and complain that the formatting wasn't great? No, because that's not our criteria. So we got rid of all of that. We made it very simple for our writers. It was easy to use and it gave them very little chance of getting inconsistent. So the writers can spend most of the time looking at the content and not worrying about the styling part of it. So this is one big change. Writing standards, we came up with an article kind of the writing standard which talked about how we should author content for online media. So I'll quickly start a demo. This is how we write this. So I have opened 2 browsers. It makes it easy for the writers wherever they are, whether at home or in the cafeteria. You log into the internet and you can start author content, update at any time. So first I'm showing the view which our customers will see. So you go to dockers.ca.com, you will see this. I wasn't sure of the internet connectivity, so I've kept all the pages open. But so we'll just figure it out. So this is dockers.ca.com and this is the product list. You can select any product. For the purpose of this presentation, I selected CA-DBM, so CA-DBM. So this is, so you can see this. We have the news and announcement sections where writers can post specific announcements with respect to the product. You can see the content categorized into different phases. These are more resources. This is where the RSS feeds I talked about, the product specific RSS feeds fed by the writer, is available here. So you can see YouTube videos that are available, any other, what discussions are going with the C community, the people community. So these are the different resources. What the blogs that are available, so they can look for. The content style is hidden, they can research and what was highlighted. This is again an interesting part. We are, for the first time we tried using documentation to generate leads for CA documentation, CA technologies. So here we are putting up an advertisement banner. If they click, they go, we are redirected to the trans.ca.com site where they can register and they can try out CA products for free. So we were able to track the analytics for this and we saw that the traffic was very high where people were moving from our banners to trying out the CA products. This is one of the best practices that won an award, how we did lead generation using documentation. So when I click a topic, you will see something like this. We can embed videos out here, you can read the story, users can give comment. To post comments, you have to be out there. And and you can rate our content. You can see these are the different versions of the product. It's a 14.2, 14.3. What are the different languages? The documentation is available. I've clicked German, so you can see the German language available here. And, so this is I picked up a topic where there has been customer interactions. We had one customer from NASA who had several questions on how we have written. So this is one thing you would probably be able to appreciate. That is one of the writers. So a writer is empowered enough to face directly the customer and back and forth with interaction is happening. So we had support engineers also coming in, and there was a good discussion going on, and based on their feedback, we were updating the topic. So it takes us, the moment a customer logs in a comment, we immediately get a notification. And we have an SLA of getting back to them in 24 hours. So either if we are able to respond, or we require more information, or checking, verifying the information of the development team, we write it. And sometimes we got support engineers, dev engineers to comment to the customers. So this was like a community growing on its own. So here again, one of our customers have asked for an enhancement, which we were not able to provide, but we told them we'll make it available the next time. So this is what our customers see. So I've opened another browser where I will talk about what we see. So this is the Confluence version which is visible to the labels. So here you can see the different versions, 14.2, 3, and this is the source version. So we worked on the source version. So I've opened the source version. One more thing I wanted to show before I open it. So here you can see PDF and EPUB. This is something we discourage. We want all our content to be online. The moment you start creating this offline documentation, it's stale. There are very few products where we have one-on-one customers who are pretty adamant that they don't have internet connection or their firewall doesn't allow them to access the documentation. In those cases, we have provided PDFs and EPUB format, and you can see the date when it was published. So anything after that, they have to refer to the documentation. So you will not find PDF and EPUB in every product. It's only on those products where our customers did put it as a requirement that I need a PDF to print or whatever, we made it available. So, yeah, this is the source. In the source you can click, browse, and these are the different capabilities we have developed into this. So I click the space details. Here you can see the Google Analytics or the export options, the RSS feed. From here we work on all of that. Scroll content allows us to, this is not workshop kind of a thing, but I just wanted to show you what are the different capabilities we have built in the platform. So scroll content here is where we publish. As soon as you get a customer comment to fix, let's assume they said there's a typo here. You go fix it, boom, 5 minutes, latest format content is available to the customers. So we click publish here. Activates. Activates is another interesting thing I click on here. So when you are editing a topic, this is how you start editing. So you have something as acrylics. Acrylics is for a self-checking tool. We don't have editors on board. So you first check and then so you can check your text, so it will check for your grammar, your other consistencies, styling, tenses, format, and give you a score. So if you are a manager or someone, you can probably look at the acrylic status. Here you will get the status of acrylic scores on all the topics. And if you want to see a report, you can click and you will get this kind of a scorecard. So it's how many issues we have, we have 3 styles issues, whatever. So this was another plugin which we work with Acrylics to ensure that it's working in our cloud platform. Another interesting thing which is there is the Google Analytics. So we see from the traffic to which topics are most viewed. we get all this information, what keywords were used by which browsers were used, which keywords were used, all of this information we get it. And this helped us take a lot of decisions. For example, if a topic is viewed more number of times, either it is an important feature or the UI is really bad that they have to come back to the documentation again and again. It can tell us any of the stories. If a topic is not viewed much, then either it's not findable or maybe it's not required. The UI is so intuitive that they can probably do it on their own, or it's badly written. It can be any of this. So those were some of the things that based on the keywords we started improving our labels, which helped us in gaining on the search engine optimization. This is something we automated. So it would be difficult for a manager or a director to go into each and every product space, look at every release, what is happening, what was the traffic, what is happening. So what we did, we created a dashboard which automatically pulls all the data, and this dashboard is available across CA. So our product managers to our other stakeholders, they all are looking at this data. So here what we have done, I don't know if it is visible or not. These are the documentation, doc sessions, how much we had each month. And this is the volume of support issues, how it has dropped or whatever. And then we have other metrics. So Google Analytics provides 4,000 metrics. So it's up to you what you feel is more important to you. You can pull it and put it out here.
How do you identify a support issue?
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
How do you identify that it is a support issue?
We are getting that. So support issues are tracked in another system. So we have coordinated two tables. When I told in the beginning, because we wanted to do two things. One is the cost of information. The other thing is how we are reducing support. So in our company we have different levels of support issues, severity 1, 2. So usually level 3 and level 4 issues are the informational issues like how-tos and all. So we absolutely know that if the documentation would have been good, those severity 4 issues wouldn't have happened at all. So severity 3 and 4 forms a large percentage of the number of issues, and we really wanted to address that. So here is the labels you can add, along with the product labels and all, you can add any other label or keyword which you think is required. Initiate the translation. I will show the translation workflow completely, how it happens from writing to publishing. I showed you the publish, but we click the publish happens in 5 to 10 minutes. This is how this is that will score for this topic. So you can just go and see there's some spelling issues. So you go to make a call. ABC is a it's a component name, so we can ignore that. Key directory is again. So this just tells us, and we need to modify our rules so the scores are consistent. So I talked about 9 formatting styles. These are the main styles we have. We don't have any more formatting beyond this. Okay, this is another interesting thing which I wanted to talk about. Earlier we used to use Visio for workflows and diagrams. So we had 200 writers. So for 200 writers, 200 Visio licenses. And with all those licenses, writers will first create the diagram in Visio, then pick the diagram and put it into the source, wherever it is. Like earlier it was in AIT or wherever you want to do. We wanted our diagrams to be online. So what we did, we have used Gliffy here. So Gliffy allows us to edit the diagrams. So if you click the edit, here's the Gliffy edit. Here you can just go, make any changes, save it, boom, the diagram is updated in the page itself. Gliffy is also useful to us, worked out in our case because Gliffy works in translating the content. When you translate your page, the text inside this workflow also gets translated. So this was one of our biggest requirements when we came up with this. So we partnered with Gliffy and asked them to customize it to our requirement. So you can see we work with the education team to introduce certain videos into our content. Okay, this is the demo. Any questions so far? Anything you would like to list?
How does it work on the Android or Is it that?
Okay, I can take it. So we have implemented Scroll Viewport. So Scroll Viewport gives us HTML capabilities, and so it has made, when we launched the first version of it in December 2013, it looked great on a desktop and a tablet, but not so much on a mobile device because the content was not fluid, it was being cluttered. Now we have implemented Viewport. With that, you try opening this in mobile devices, dropbox.ca.com, any product, you would see all the frames, they tile up nicely and you would not have that kind of a cluttered So one more thing, could you remind this? We have ensured that our solution is FireWire compliant. So all this is accessible to our different users. This is one of the biggest requirements when you are building solutions for enterprise customers. So you have to take care of the accessibility, and we have taken care of that. So this is a demo site. I asked my team member to create a demo site with just 5 topics. So I hope the connection works here. So let me go to the dashboard. So you can see there are no versions here and there are no languages. It's just in English. So I'll go to the dashboard. In CA we follow the scaled agile framework, and those of you who know SAFe agile, it follows 2-week sprints. It becomes so difficult unless you have such a platform available where writers don't have to think about publishing and other things, it becomes very difficult for writers to provide up-to-date content at the end of 2 weeks. So this is the translation dashboard. I can select specific topics for a translation or just start this. So I'm translating this to German. Start. Hope it works. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, please yes.
The wiki instance, do you have to log into the instance to view the tool?
Yes, here I have logged in. I first showed you in Safari, a different browser.
So if you Google it, it's not available, right?
See, here I have logged in.
Okay.
This is the writer's tool. The login.
I don't think that's required.
The reason why I asked is you talked about marketing your product on the landing.
Yes. Yes.
So how would an outside user come to know that there is a product and
so when you just open dropbox.ca.com, 95% of our content is already public. It's just 5% of content is restricted. You can fill out content on Google also. It's all there. So you don't have to log in. Just go to dropbox.ca.com, pick any product, start. You will be able to see the bar. Only thing you would not be able to do as an anonymous user is to log in to the login comments. So that's the only thing you restrict. Okay, for some reason, my translation thing is not working out.
Are you using machine translation here?
Yes. So we have machine. So CA has a rich translation memory. So what we have, once we translate, it moves on to the translation memory. We have a corpus of more than 10 years. So translation memory to machine translation, we use Microsoft Hub as a translation, machine translation, and then it goes over to Linguist for post-editing. Linguists do post-editing on the same platform. There is no downloading of content, translating and uploading of content, nothing. All the checking of strings, approvals, everything is done on the same platform. So once they have approved the string segments, they make it available, and it's available as a separate published site. You saw the German site I showed. So once they're published, it's available already. So what happens in Agile Scrums? Let's say I've done part of my work, I'll turn it over for translation. So that part is translated. The second time, after 2 more sprints, I again turn it over for translation. So we have a cloning feature which compares which topics were changed between last time and this time and what had changed. So it will pass on those strings, the delta for translation. So our translation effort actually goes down over a period of time, and that's why we are able to keep our documentation in sync with the development team. So they are moving faster with the Agile, and we have to keep pace with it. I often hear this as a challenge, how writers need to keep pace with development when it comes to Agile best practices. This does do this.
Basic content store. Is it a CMS? What's the backend?
It's in Contigix. So we were thinking whether we'll go for Amazon Web Services or Contigix. So we decided to host our content on Contigix service. So
Okay, I have another question. And how do you have like a reuse model with this? You need to reuse segments of the content in some other topics. So is there a model where you have to reuse?
we enable reuse as well, but we have asked us to use it to a minimum because it's because we are moving away from this bookshelf paradigm. We don't even want our users to see the table of contents. We haven't removed it, but very soon you will not even find that table of contents there. We don't want people to navigate by topic, and frankly speaking, nobody does that way. Even we don't search topic by topic. You have a search bar, go put in what you're looking for. And once you have put in a search content, it will fetch your search results not only from the documentation, but from your communities, education, support material. All of these things are integrated in the background. So you will get results from communities too, as wherever it has a search result. So it crawls through these multiple sites and gives you the results you are looking for. You don't have to go to individual silos to find out what you're looking for. Yes?
So are these silos only connected by having a single search result, or there is also additional integration when you're creating content?
We are in the process of integrating with education. With support, we have already integrated. So I'll take a minute to talk about the support integration. So what we have done, as soon as a support engineer gets a ticket, we have created a form. So if the user can find anything and a KB article has to be written, so we don't want KB articles to be authored by support engineers. So if the support engineer sees that the information missing, he'll fill out a form and submit. The moment he submits, we get notified there. The writers will get notified. And we look for that information. We coordinate with the support engineer to ensure, to understand where this information needs to go. We will try to find out whether a new topic has to be created or some existing topic needs to be modified with this additional information. Once we are done, we will get it reviewed by support engineer. The support engineer says okay, he closes the ticket and documentation is there. So what happened? No KB article was created. So we do not want support engineers to create a separate silo of KB articles. So that was our integration which is already working. We talked about education. So right now we have embedded different videos here and there. So they were created by the education team. Now there are some paid courses as well. So we are looking at integrating the marketplace along with the documentation. So if users want to take up some paid courses, from here they are directed to them and they can pay and get the services. And one more thing, we also have this alpha validation for data testers. So what we can do, we go to users management. Let's say I have some user from abc.com, right? Some other company. So I can use those email IDs to the users and they will have access to this. So even for our internal reviews, when we are passing on to sending the documents to the development team for review, we do not create Word documents or anything, go mark my document and say, no. Once it's done, it's published, give the URL, okay, go and review. Whatever the review, they'll just enter the comments. We look at the comments, everyone is free to enter whatever comments they have. So there is no conflict there, like what one is saying, what the other one is saying, right? Usually the problem we faced when we implemented track changes in a Word document review. So got rid of all of that, everything is in the comments, fix it, update the topic, and when you are making it available to the customers, or you can just, with the click of a button, you delete all the comments and it's available to the customer.
So how did you take care of the legacy content?
That's a good question. So what we did, it was not possible for us to take our entire package, which is there, and start loading them into, I mean, it's not a garbage can where just you're dumping everything. So what we did for earlier previous releases, we had the bookshelves available, so they are there in the support site. I'll just show you where you can see. It's come, okay. So this is your Clarity PDF. Yeah, you can see this documentation library for previous releases. You click this, it takes you to the support site where you have the 13 dot or 7 dot, which are still not end of life. Those products are still available. We did report all of them. Yes.
Sorry, I have a lot of questions.
No problem. Please.
You're probably 2 steps ahead in the same journey that we're doing at BMC.
Okay.
Right. And computer, as I was saying, you're far away, far ahead. Now, the question about scroll versions.
Yeah.
How is it better than copying over the space for the next release? Do you have to have a lot of conditional text in your source to make sure multiple versions are supported from the same source?
I didn't get your question. So we have scroll versions and and for variables also we have used, we developed our own plugin. Variables, variants we are using, we are using one more plugin. There are very good plugins which we have used. So we are using one more. So a total of 3 plugins enables us to maintain these different versions, variables, variants, all things are maintained.
So let me ask you the other way.
Okay.
If I'm an author,
Yes.
and I have the same source file
Yes.
for 5 different releases of the same product.
Yes.
So I keep conditionalizing the same thing.
You will not be able to see. So, see here, maybe I will take it a little offline because otherwise I'm getting too much into confidence. So let's say this is the source, okay? So this is my working version. You want to go to the account, you go there, you will see some topics being grayed out. So you can see here. So with how we structure those, I can just show you offline. So it just was, you always have to select what is the directly published version and take on that. And this is the source. Do not, for other products, you see, I'll just click on. So here you can see these are the published versions. We don't want to touch that. We want to work only the source version. So let me just show you how this is the workflow. When you go to the different versions, the published site, I don't want to take much chances into it. Let me see what I can show you. So let's say this is the finished version. You can see leveraging has been done automatically. This is your translation memory language, the existing corpus you have. It moves on to machine translation, that again happens, and this is at the post-editing stage. In post-editing, we have something edit involvement. So if I'm a linguist, what I do, I click on this. I shouldn't be doing this, but it's a published version, so just for the demo. So here you can see, here you will see the English text, and here you will see the translated version. If I am a linguist, I'll just go edit it right here, and I'll say approve, it gets approved. Then I take the next string, let's say this one, and then I move and start making those changes. So as a linguist, I'm doing post editing here. So there is no fear that my content would get lost. What if they, dump our content? So all those concerns were just taken care of. With this property, I would come to the last slide. Sorry, I just have 1 minute. So we were able to achieve speed in publishing, translation, and in quickly responding back to the customers. It gave us better decision-making ability. To summarize, DocOps is not just a tool, it's less of a tool and more of a practice, agile practices. And it helped us keep pace with the development teams and made us a true partner with product management and not just content contributors. So technology is evolving and will continue to evolve. Tomorrow there might be an even better content management system. Having a model that adds value to your business as well as to your customers is going to stay along for a long time and not your tool. That was the whole idea. So if you come to think of a solution, always think of what exactly you expect out of the tool and then look for a tool in the market. Don't pick the tool and then think, okay, what all this tool can do for us. So that's the approach we took and we came up with this blockbuster model. So feel free to reach out to me offline or you can email me at nivedita.agarwal@ca.com. I'm available after this presentation for any questions you may have. Thank you so much.